Hello, welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of Get On Up.
Get up, get on up, get up, get on up, stay on the scene, get on up, like a sex machine, get on up.
So, I am a huge fan of old school funk, R&B, and soul, and I love me some James Brown music, let me tell you. And I thought this movie was very good. Overall, I think the movie services the opportunity to tell us a little bit about James Brown's life, especially those of us that were a little young to remember or even be alive when a lot of these events happened. So, it was nice to see this side, the man behind the music. But ultimately, I think Get On Up was just a vehicle for Chadwick Boseman to show his acting prowess. So, you may have recognized that this is the man who played Jackie Robinson in 42, and now he gets a crack at the soul godfather himself, and he really delivers on that front. I was a little bit scared when the movie started. I thought he was going to be playing a real over-the-top caricature, and it made me nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I can understand him. I understand that's kind of how James Brown talked, but ooh, is this going to be a distraction? No. Once he actually got into the role, past that opening scene, he sunk his teeth into the person that was James Brown and really sucked us in, to the point where by the end of the film, you thought you were actually watching an autobiography documentary of James Brown himself. He just did that great at depicting the man that is Mr. Brown. But overall, the acting in general is the high point of Get On Up. This is from the same director of The Help, and guess what? He brought about 85% of the cast on over from The Help into this film, even in really minor roles. So, it was a little bit interesting, because you were kind of like, oh wow, we're working with almost an identical cast here. But overall, they're great actors and actresses, and they just really delivered. So, you're not too worried about all of that. But Nelson Ellis, who also was in The Help, and I first was introduced to him on True Blood, was really strong in his role as well. And I just think Viola Davis, Octavia Spencer, all of them, everybody, Dan Aykroyd, all were really fantastic in their supporting cast roles. So the acting was really, really strong. Now, I think Get On Up was a fun time. A time for you to kind of relive James Brown's music and remember, wow, he really is a music legend. He delivered some of the best soul of all time. And he was a performer. Wow. And, again, Chadwick Boseman really delivered on the moves. And that's what sold it. It's just, not only did he deliver the human behind the persona, he also sold the persona. He was dancing just like Brown himself. I was really impressed with those splits, those moves. I was like, wow, you go, Boseman. But it was just a fun time, and you could really relive all of James Brown's greatest musical moments and musical performances. And, like I said, it does delve a little bit into story, but I actually think that's one of the negatives that I'll get to in just a moment. One thing I appreciated, though, was the structure that they decided to go in. So this was a great job by the director, is it wasn't chronological. We didn't start out at, like, baby James Brown through death of James Brown. We jumped. So we started, you know, in the 80s, we jumped back to the 70s, and then we jumped back to James Brown as a small child, and then up, back, up, back. It kept you on your feet, and it really had you engaged the whole time, and I really appreciated that structure. I think this movie could have gotten very bland and very boring super fast if it had just gone in chronological, typical, safe order. So, I appreciated the jumping around. What I did not appreciate was the breaking of the fourth wall. I don't know, it just kind of took me out of it, because this is the telling of somebody's life. So, to have them turn and talk to you directly at the camera just kind of jarred me almost each and every time it happened. And it just took me out. It was, again, an innovative thing to try, something new, something fresh to bring to the biography genre, but it really took me out, and I wasn't a fan of that breaking of the fourth wall throughout the film. I also thought the movie could have gone much deeper. I think we were given a little bit of what James Brown was like, but not enough. I think we could have delved into that psyche more. We barely touched on things like drug abuse, or we barely touched on things like his abusive nature, his bad tendencies. They were there, they popped up, but you never fully delved into them. The relationship between him and his children. Touched on, not fully developed. And I think that happens so often throughout the movie. It's just that you were kind of given a glimpse into the darker side of James Brown, or the struggles of James Brown, but never fully sold. It did a great job of showing us his backstory and what he went through to get to that point in his life. That's what this movie really did and really set up well. What did he go through? Why did he get to the place he was? But once we got to that point as an adult, we never went into his mind and understood James Brown at all. And we never really got to see a lot of his darker tendencies. He wasn't depicted as a saint by any means. We were let on to the fact that he had a lot of problems, he did a lot of things wrong, he wasn't perfect. I just wish we could have delved into that a lot more. And I also think the story doesn't tie up loose ends. There's a lot of characters that we see just little pop-up glimpses of, but we're never wrapped up. Like Octavia Spencer's character, she helped James Brown, she was a part of his life, but we see her after we're first introduced, but we never really get a wrap-up of her story. We don't really know what happens to her. I know the story's not about her, but it seemed for so many years that she played some role in James Brown's life. For her to not even be touched upon really ever again seemed alarming to me, and it's everybody in that community who's not really touched on again. Near the end, his wife basically falls off the face of the earth. So you're just like, what's going on here? Like, what's happening? So there's so many relationships that I think maybe it's time constraint, I'm not really sure, they drop. They completely drop them out of the story, and I thought that was, a little less than satisfying. I want to know about these people. You got me invested in them a little bit. What happened? What happened between them and James himself? So, it is what it is. Overall, I think the movie was a fun time. If you're a fan of James Brown, I say definitely go see it. If you're a fan of soul music, or if you're a fan of R&B, hip-hop, rap, even if you're a fan of just pop music, or any of the big performers today, if you're a fan of Michael Jackson, any of them, if you watch this movie, you will see how hard James Brown worked to get to where he was. And it does depict a little bit of the social commentary that he had to bust through on both sides of the political racial spectrum to get to what he wanted and get to his goals. And I think that's just a great lesson, but it also is great to see where the performance aspects that we've just become so accustomed to today originated, and he is definitely one of the originators of all of the elements of performance and a lot of elements of pop music, of R&B, of hip-hop, of rap. So I think if you're a music fan, you'll enjoy it, and I think it'll be a great lesson, because I think young folks my age today don't really know too much about older artists that really started a lot of the things we love today. So go see it. Overall, I recommend it. 2 thumbs up. I did enjoy it. I wish we could have gone deeper, but overall, a pretty good movie. That is my review of Get On Up. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't be afraid to hit subscribe down below, and check out my other videos listed on my channel. I appreciate you so much for your support. Love you for watching today, and I will see you next time. Bye.